world confusing, congested? Are you just trying to find your way? There must be a light at the end of this tunnel. Well, there's a way to find your calling, to find that job you want and deserve, when someone will come up to you and say, "You're hired." Hi, I'm Steve Piazzale, a career life coach, and welcome to You're Hired, a show about jobs and careers in which we answer questions such as, how do I find work that makes me come alive? How do I take performance to the next level and get promoted? How do I find out about careers in medicine, architecture, being a consultant? Well, we answer all these questions and many more on the show by having on the show knowledgeable and lively guests, and we certainly have a lively one today. Before I introduce her, I'd like to invite you to take a look at my website where we recently added the 12 keys to getting a great job. You can find that and a lot more information at www.bayareacareercoach.com. That's www.bayareacareercoach.com. Well, I'm really excited with our guest today. Kimberly Wiefling is here. She's a business program leadership consultant, and she helps companies of all sizes around the world come up with some incredible results through her innovative methods. She's knowledgeable, she's interesting, and she's a dynamo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's thrilling to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit of what you do and the story of how you got here.
Well, I'd like to tell you how I finally made the transition to being a real consultant. It was in the dot-com bomb, what I'm calling the Silicon Valley mood disorder. It was in 2001, January 31st, the company where I was working, spin-off of Xerox PARC. I was the VP of Program Management, my first executive position. And we found out a month before that the VCs had pulled their money. So it was my job to help manage the transition to shutting down the whole company, which was called group fire, which ended up meaning we got fired as a group, which I thought was pretty exciting. So on February 1st, 2001, the worst possible economic time since 1983, I decided, I have a great idea. I'll start my own consulting practice. And that's what I did.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about what you do. I mean, what's the range of things you do? Somebody's thinking about maybe doing this, you know.
I'm a physicist by education. I worked 10 years at Hewlett-Packard in engineering, product development, and program management. And I found I had a real talent for distilling order out of chaos, getting things done. A lot of people work in organizations where there's a lot of overwhelming information. There's so much going on at the same time. And it's a little like being a fish. If fish were scientists, they'd never discover water. And when you're working in these organizations, it's tough to see the forest for the trees. So what I do is I work with leaders of organizations that are moving fast in a bit of chaos, maybe at a break point between what used to work and now it doesn't work anymore. And what they need is some practical, often common sense, business leadership, project management practices that get results. And I'm not talking results by luck. And I'm not talking results by heroics or firefighting or just once. I'm talking repeatable, predictable, and sustainable results.
And are they fairly open to you when you come into the situation and they say, please help us, or they say, we have no problem?
Well, nobody wants to be told that they need common sense advice, so I usually don't sell it that way. But what happens sometimes, what's working well in an organization, suddenly it doesn't work anymore. What worked when you had 30 people doesn't work when you have 300. And usually people think of calling me when things stop working and there's been some sort of disaster or setback. The very insightful people, of course, see the need for me and bring me in ahead of that. But you know, crisis builds consensus. When there's a disaster, that builds a consensus that, okay, we need to do something differently. Hey, maybe we'll call Kimberly.
Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, I know you believe in starting your own business and having that as an option, and talk about being entrepreneurial and owning your own business and where it fits in with everything.
Well, I feel really strongly about that we're all self-employed, whether we believe that or not, whether we have our own business or not. Guess how many jobs a person entering the workforce today is going to have before they retire?
6, 7.
17. Wow. 17 different jobs. And that's presuming someday we might retire, maybe, maybe not. I know somebody right now who's working for the same company for 25 years. Even in that company, this person has had 4 different jobs. And that's
you're talking about different jobs within company. Okay.
No, I'm even talking about changing companies. So the days of getting out of school, go to work for Hewlett-Packard, work there 30, 40 years, get your watch and retire. That's done. Because companies can no longer afford to stay committed to people that long. Things are changing so rapidly. In order to compete in the changing environment, they need to reinvent themselves continuously. So for me, that just means each person needs to be their own self-reliant business.
And weren't you saying to me at one time that different groups in the stratus of all the different hierarchies, there's some groups that are going to it more than others,
yeah,
as an option?
Oh, of course. Well, women are starting their businesses at many times more than men. Women of color, Black and Hispanic women are starting businesses at 6 times the rate of white men. And in some sense, it's a flight from the workplace, and in some sense, it's indication that the whole world of employment is changing. There's no such thing as lifetime employment, and people know that. People who have a job, those are the kind of people that should start a business. Because,
and why do you say that?
Well, how would you like to go to a party and people ask you, what do you do? I'm laid off. Nobody ever wants to say that. I had a good 100 friends at any one time during the .com disaster that were out of work. Now, if you have your own business on the side, when you get laid off, no big deal. You say, no problem, I have a landscaping business. Mm-hmm. No problem, I represent nutritional supplements. I'm a business leadership consultant. Now, when I first started my business, I told people I'm a business leadership and project management consultant. And some of my friends said, oh, in other words, you're out of work. I said, no, I really am a consultant. Other people are pretending to be consultants when they're in job transition. It's a good idea to have that extra card.
I liked it. I heard you say once that it was a bit of a buffer towards unemployment as well, because you,
yes,
even as a sense of identity, not just telling other people, that it's important that you feel like you're ramping up, and hopefully, right, the business that you're doing on your own is something you really care about, rather than just something that's purely for money.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you are working at a regular job and you lose your job and all you know is your job and that's your identity, and oh, by the way, when I worked at Hewlett-Packard, all my friends were only at Hewlett-Packard, you have no life. And people are despondent. I know one guy said, after 20 years, I never thought I'd be out on the street. Here's a person driving a BMW in $1 million house. I'm on the street.
He's out on the street in his BMW.
Exactly. Right. I have a hard time working up any compassion for someone like that. I mean, you're not living in a box in the middle of the road. Yeah. But people's egos and self-esteem are very wrapped up in their job, in their title.
I wanted to ask you about, from your experience, things that hold folks back, things that hold people back, where they, do they just, what do you see as some of these main problems?
The number one. I wish I could do a little experiment. Maybe I can drop something and not make too much of a racket here.
Okay.
So I do this experiment in my workshops. Watch this pen carefully. Okay. Right. It fell. What caused it?
You dropped it.
Yeah, I let go. Some people say gravity caused it. Now, which one's true?
Both.
Well, it depends on your perspective. But I'm a physicist. I'm not going to spend a nanosecond trying to change the gravitational constant of the universe. So why should I focus on the fact that gravity made it fall? I'm going to focus on the fact that I let go. What I see people doing is playing the victim. It wasn't my fault. There was nothing I could do. We've got to go back. We're all going to die. Please, it's gravity. But you were there. You know, there must be some contribution that we're making to the results we're getting in our life. That's my belief.
So it's just like taking ownership
of
what...
Even if it's not true, Steve, even if it's not true that I have control over my life, isn't it a healthy illusion to believe that somehow I have something to do with the results I'm getting? Because if I sit there and believe I'm a helpless victim, I'm going to stand at the kitchen table sucking my thumb in the fetal position all day.